Welcome classic car fans to another edition of Earl's Classic Cars, where today we're going to do another in our feature of daily classic cars on this 2005 Honda Accord. We've been having a consistent check engine light problem with this thing related to the EVAP system, and we're going to go through the things that we've done up to this point and show you what our final solution is for this particular problem. So of course with these EVAP system leaks and stuff like that, it leads you to various issues. One of the simplest things first to do is it'll tell you to check your gas cap. In fact, I was getting a check fuel cap on the dash with the car, and of course it wants you to try to tighten it. I took it off, tightened it different times. This is the original gas cap that came on the car, and these things can wear out. I went to the locking gas cap. This gas cap was actually working very well, I thought, and wasn't having any issues with it. Seal seems to be okay on it and everything, but of course it says, check the gas cap, and I thought, well, maybe that was the problem. I went back to the original gas cap for a while, and I'm still getting a check engine light. The effort to even getting an original gas cap replacement from Honda for this thing, which of course has been updated, as you can tell. It's got a bigger ring around it, things like that, but the inside of it and everything works correctly for it. It's the right size and everything. It's just they made the whole thing look bigger. And even after putting that on, that did not solve the problem. So we tried various things. So at different times when we start the car, the check engine light will come on and stay on after starting the car. So we took out our handy dandy little iNova check engine detection system here. Very inexpensive tool. I don't remember if I bought it at Harbor Freight or online with Amazon. But either way, these are very good system for determining at least what your check engine light is on for and give you the code. It may not help you solve necessarily the problem, but you can, once you make a repair, erase the codes that are causing it and see if the code comes back and that solves the problem. They're a very handy tool to have around when you're trying to diagnose these modern day cars. Alright, so we've continued to go back and forth between a check fuel cap indicator on the dash and a check engine light code, and now we're coming up with P0456. On page 2 of this check engine light diagnostic is saying evaporative emission system leak detected, very small leak. Into the effort of getting under the car here, jacking this up and replacing the fuel tank pressure sensor, which is next to the charcoal canister box here in front of the fuel tank. That did not solve it. And after replacing the fuel pressure sensor in front of the charcoal canister, we got a different engine code. We were getting a P0496 code, which means the purge valve canister may have been faulty, so we replaced this. Then, of course, these hoses are older on this car with over 260,000 miles on it. I think it was like 254,000 at the time. So we replaced these vacuum hoses on here, and we are still getting a check engine light indication. So at that point we decided to do a smoke test on the EVAP system to see where we were continuing to have leaks. At this point we set up our smoke machine to do a leak detection test on our EVAP system. Got it all hooked up to the battery. Once we had it set up, we were ready to go. Now, as you can tell by the way we have this set up, that we put it right into the intake. Most of the time they'll tell you to take it off, take the hose off back here at the brake booster and do it that way, but as you can tell, that is tucked back in there, and that was not going to work for us. We wanted to make this as simple as possible and not have to really work to get that hose off of there. So we put it in here. Yes, this is a metal piece here to a metal piece, so put a piece of tape over this to try to keep the smoke from leaking back out. Now, this was not a perfect seal by any means, but it worked for our test. To let these smoke machines heat up a little bit and get the mineral oil hot and smoky so that it'll go through the system. As you can see, we've got the smoke machine going now. There's a little bit of vapor coming out here. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but when we did this smoke test the first time, what we found out was we had taken off this intake and redid the valve cover gaskets on this car about 6 months to a year ago, and I don't know if it's when we put everything back together that we didn't get this hose on right from the air filter into the intake manifold, but it was smoke was coming out, and as you can see, it's still coming out here a little bit, which means we've got a problem. Probably the age of this hose needs to be done. But the other day when I found that this was leaking excessively, I fixed this, put it back on, and that cured the check engine light issue that I was having. So just know that you need to check, probably start with the smoke detector test first, find out where your leaks are, instead of just trying to solve it by codes and reading up on codes like I did. And you could maybe solve your check engine light. But anyway, once I put this back on here, the check engine light went away. But I also noticed right here that our EGR valve has been leaking, and when you get a closer look down in there, it is not coming from the gasket area. It is coming literally from the bottom of this EGR valve. So even though the check engine light isn't on anymore, this tells me that this EGR valve is no good and it's got a leak in it, and we're probably just going to throw another engine coat at some point. So the point of this video today is to show you where you're getting your leaks from, and then show you how to change out this EGR valve, which is really easy on this 2005 Honda Accord V6. I just love the constant traffic interruptions when you're trying to do a video. Seems like everybody knows when you're doing a video. You'll be wondering, why has he got plastic grocery bags at between his air filter and this hose? Well, if you don't put plastic of some kind to block the smoke from coming back through the intake manifold, it's going to go right through this hose and right out the air filter, and you'll lose the pressure that you need to expose the leaks where they really count. So put a plastic bag on here, stick your hose back on here real good, and trust me, if you don't stick your hose back on here real good, it's going to leak around here. You may have seen that earlier in the video. So at this point, we're going to change this EGR valve. First thing to do, and the easiest thing to do, of course, is to take off this connector right here on this EGR valve. Hopefully yours slips off as easy as this one did. And then get this hose out of the way, and you can see there are two small nuts right here. Looks like probably 10 millimeter. You know, everything with a foreign American car that is 10 millimeter. So we're going to start off with 10 millimeter and get these nuts off of here, and then remove this EGR valve. This is the original EGR valve on this car. Well, guess what? I was wrong. It is not 10 millimeters. There's even an airplane going over. I'm telling you, they all know when you're making a video. Well, went two more sizes up, found out it's 12 millimeters. Let's get this thing off of here. All right, we're going to have to go for a little bit more power here in the situation, a little more leverage. There we go. That's what happens when you're on there for 260,000 miles. It's a little tough to come off. Now, just a couple of studs here. Make sure we don't drop it down in the engine. You know how that is. Well, if you don't know how it is, you'll find out. All right, let's get this one loosened up too. EGR valve is exhaust gas release valve for recirculating unburnt gases from your engine back into the intake manifold and then back into the engine to be reburnt. It's supposed to help the environment. Some of the newer cars, even newer than this one nowadays, don't even have an EGR valve, but most modern day cars do up to the last few years. All right, so got both of these flange nuts off of here. I'm going to pop this thing off of here, take a look at it. You'll know in other videos, a lot of them are, say you can clean these things out, and you probably can, but considering this had a leak in it at the bottom, I decided we're just going to go ahead and replace it, put a new gasket on there, and see if that cures that leak that we were seeing with our smoke machine. We do have quite a bit. This is the original gasket on here. You can see that's pretty crusty, but also still right on there. So the surface here looks a little corroded. Let me get you a closer look. All right, as you can see here, that surface is somewhat corroded. Not sure why. I guess just over time, maybe moisture or other things got in between the gasket and the surface here. So I'm going to plug these holes up a little bit. Going to try to smooth that out, sand it down a little bit with some fine sandpaper, and get a better mating surface for the new gasket. So now we have the holes plugged up. We're going to take our sandpaper here, try to smooth out this surface, get it ready for the new gasket. Again, if you were in a hurry or had an emergency of some kind, you could probably just pop a new one back on here, but you're going to end up having a problem if you don't make this mating surface smooth as can be to prevent any future leaks. Good thing is, as tight as most of these areas are in cars nowadays, this area is pretty good as far as getting into it. And already we're taking off whatever little bit of oxidation was there. Again, I'm not sure what caused that to happen, but this sandpaper here is smoothing it right out real quick. We'll have this ready to go back on in no time. Hopefully my fat head is not in the way of seeing all this very important sanding action here. Either that, you're getting a look at my brand new Chase Elliott hat that I got at the local car show. It actually was a cruise-in East Tennessee. We did a video on that. Check it out here in this link up in the upper right-hand corner. You want to see some awesome classic cars and trucks, and even a Econoline van from a fellow YouTuber. The YouTube channel's Heritage Gate Farms. But check it out. See what you think, and tell me in the comments of that video which one was your favorite classic car in that video. There we go. Look at that. That is smoothing up real nice. Just need to get this little corner here real quick. We'll be ready to slap this EGR valve on in no time. Just make sure you get these corners around the studs. You don't get any leaks there too. And I know it's tempting with all these different gaskets to put a little, I don't know, RTV or whatever your choice of goop is these days, but do not put that on this surface. It does not require it, as proof by the original still being on here for over 250,000 to 260,000 miles before this started being an issue. All right, there we go. Carefully pop this out. As you can see, you don't want that getting down in your engine. Push this one down. I hope I get it back out. There we go. Pop that out too. Look at that. There's still a little bit there, so we'll try to brush it away from the holes. And we'll give you a close-up look at how that looks now that we've sanded it. Trying to show you these things if we get the smoke machine hose out of the way, but as you can see now, that surface looks a lot better, a lot more ready to go. Maybe I need to do a little bit more right there, so I will finish that up and then show you the finishing. We're ready to put this on. I'll just show you what I bought for this issue. You can go Honda replacement parts if you want to. Genuine Honda parts are typically the best with these cars, but aftermarket parts will work too. This is the Dorman, part number 911-767, and Dorman makes a lot of the parts that go on some of these cars, so I felt good with this solution, and I purchased this on Amazon. So you can too if you want to put this particular part as a replacement in your car. Going to put the gasket on here. Here's the brand new gasket. Going to put it on in the same direction as the holes. Make sure everything lines up. Put that on there. And we're just going to slide this thing right down on it. Hopefully you can see that. Fits right underneath this hose right here. Pop it right on. And we're ready to tighten this thing down. Didn't come with any replacement nuts, so make sure you don't lose these flange nuts. Flange, you can see, it's got a little tapered on the end. We'll get these both going at the same time. Still, you may still see a little smoke vapor coming out of the intake where I had the smoke detector hose in there. So it wanders around in there until it all cleans itself out. All right, here comes some more traffic. Gotta love the traffic. Get this back on here with your, tighten it back on here with your 12mm socket, or wrench, whatever works best for you. Tighten it up on both sides evenly before you start tightening it down totally. Torque it on there. Don't know what the exact torque specifications are, but I'm going to torque it till it's tight. Pop your little clip on. And that's it, folks. It's on there. Check that out. One of the easiest fixes you'll ever make if that's what you think is part of your problem. And again, my check engine light had already gone off after I made sure that this hose right here was on correctly to the intake. Always double check. Smoke detection tests work great for those kind of issues. But since this was leaking from the bottom on the original with the smoke detection test, I decided to go ahead and replace this so I eliminate one more possibility of throwing a check engine code. And you could do the same. This was the original part number, as you can see right here. This is the original part number, as you can see right here. When you're trying to do a replacement, put in Siemens AC013898780 to find a compatible part that'll work for you. Now, let's finish putting this back together, start it up, and see if we have any more check engine codes. A small friendly reminder, don't forget when you're done with your smoke detection test to hook your point of entry, your hose, in this case right here to the back of the intake manifold. Make sure you hook it back on and clip it back on to seal that up so you don't end up throwing the check engine code for not having the hose on there. Okay, so we went ahead and took that plastic bag and everything back out of the hose between there and the air filter. Make sure you get this back on tight and it fits right back into that notch there. If you don't, you're going to have a leak on this end, and again, it may throw another check engine code. This end up here, you want to make sure this is tight. And again, you saw a little bit of smoke leak here, so I'm probably going to go ahead and replace this too, because any sort of leaks can throw a check engine code on you real easily. When we did our smoke test the other day, of course, we demonstrated to you that the EVAP canister was leaking around here at the bottom, so we went ahead and replaced that. But we had a leak here, which is causing that check engine light to go off. But we also noticed during our smoke test that the smoke was coming out here, and as you can see, there's a crack here. So we've gone ahead and ordered this part right here. It's not a factory part, unfortunately. It's a Chinese knockoff from Amazon. But here's the part number. It appears to be the right size and fit. So new is going to be better than old in this case. So we're going to go ahead and replace this hose from the air filter over to the intake. And hopefully we won't have any more leaks here and any more check engine lights. And this particular bracket right here does take a 10mm socket. So we're going to get this off here real quick. Detach this hose from here and then replace this intake hose. We went ahead first in order to give us a little bit more room and not to damage this. We took this little electrical clip off of here that goes to your intake right here. And of course we pulled this hose off here to give us a little bit more flexibility here. If you notice here, we have a steel pipe that's right up against this other one. And so that's making it difficult. I think we're gonna have to pinch this clamp off this way, kind of hold it and pull the hose this direction once we kind of free it up between these two areas. With this intake hose, the way that it is right here with this lip on it and everything, having this space right here and this hose stuck on here to try and get that off is virtually impossible. As you can tell, it was dry rotted anyway, but I had to literally cut this part off right here in order to get it over this lip right on here. So instead of putting this pinch clamp back on here, which was sitting on here like this, similar to how that pinch clamp is, but you can see you've got room to slide this pinch clamp off, go this way with it, and then pull this hose off. Here, you've got no such room. I mean, the hose is up on here, and you've got no way to get this off of here so that you can pull this off. It just doesn't work, especially with this distance in here and everything. So, nope, we are going to replace that with a thread screw clamp instead. That'll hold that on there. Again, not a lot of pressure. This is just an air hose, air intake hose. So these will work fine. On here, I went ahead and compared similar length, similar diameter, as you can see in here on both ends. Even has the little grommet place for your wire to go through. Has the same hose that's got to go on there. Got to remember to put our clamp on there first for getting this connected on here, and then we'll be able to hook these two up together and solve our air leak. And again, looking at the old one, you can see in here, get it in the right place, you can see that crack right along in there. That's part of one of the air leaks. And you have something like that, again, can cause a check engine light. So that's been part of our problem, we're sure. We were finally able to scoot that all back on. As you can see, it's on here tight. We really had to loosen this clamp and this clamp to their maximum. In fact, this one kind of came apart right there, but we were able to put it back together. But there's not a lot of slack in these clamps. In fact, I would say these clamps are probably just a hair too small for this fitting, but again, aftermarket. It does clip on here. You were able to put your wire through here, get that clip back on. Again, we put this clamp on here instead of that pinch clamp that was on there before, so now we can slide this off better. In the future, if we have to take this off, we'll have more success, but we should now be able to cure all of our leaks. I will say be careful. Make sure that this lip has gone all the way around and is not tucked underneath. I think that was part of my problem before when I put this back on after putting this intake back on, after replacing my valve cover gaskets. So when I put this back on, this was pinched underneath. I didn't make sure, but definitely feel all the way underneath. Make sure you can feel this lip is over the intake and over the air filter, and you should be good to go. And this, believe me, this feels a lot more supple, more rubbery, brand new, versus this thing, 259,000 miles, 260,000 miles, is definitely the original, and was past the time to get it replaced. Now, if you really do want original OEM, you would be able to get this notch in here that would allow you to slide this up in here. I probably could have cut a little bit of a notch, but as you can see, this has a lip and a tension spring around it versus this strap. So if I go cutting here, then I've got problems with the strap and not able to snug it up as well as I could if it was factory with this extra lip on here and this notch. So if that's a concern for you, then I would suggest you buy OEM. Of course, you're going to pay OEM price for this thing. Can save the clamp, the strap clamp. There's nothing wrong with this, so we'll save this for future use if we need it. In fact, I could have transferred it onto here, since this one, like I said, had very little gap or extra length to it to help me get it around here and tighten it up. But it should be good. But if it's not good, then I'll have this right here to help me replace it if I need to. There you go, folks. No check engine codes. If you're having a problem, that check engine code's usually going to come on right away. Oh, look at that. Maintenance required light was flashing. So here's a little bonus content for you on how to get rid of that. When the maintenance required light come on, here's what you got to do. You got to hold this down. Let's see if we can do this all at the same time. There we go. You got to hold this. Okay, you got to hold your reset button down. Turn your ignition on, but do not start it. Okay, you got to hold your release reset button down, turn on your ignition, hold the button in for 5 seconds till the maintenance required light goes off. And you're good to go. Let's start it and see that maintenance required light comes on again. Nope, goes out just like that. Again, that's one of those things to remind you from the factory. Every 15,000 miles, you're supposed to do a service maintenance with them, get you to bring it in and everything. But if you're taking care of the maintenance yourself and you're still seeing that maintenance required light come on, again, press this hold release button in, turn the ignition on, don't start it, hold the button in for 5 seconds or until that light goes off, and then you're good to go. And we just proved that by restarting it, and there's no maintenance required light. So after doing that and having no more check engine light issues, I went ahead and put back on my locking gas cap just because I don't want any thief taking my gas. I don't know about you, but they still could do it. Anyway, I actually did the test that you just saw with this locking gas cap on, so it was not contributing to the problem as far as having that check engine light come on in the first place. More traffic. So we're able to keep this 260,000 mile 2005 Honda Accord on the road with a little bit of do-it-yourself maintenance. Literally, in trying to record this outro, a dozen cars have gone by in the last 3 minutes. You'd think I lived on the main road, but I don't. I live on a side street. Either way, you too can keep your daily classic car on the road. Just say no to new cars and help keep your daily driver classic car on the road with a little bit of do-it-yourself maintenance. If you like this video, please put a like on it. Please put a comment in there of what you did like or didn't like about the video, maybe what helped you, any questions you might have. Also, share it with others who are trying to keep their daily driver classic cars on the road. And last but not least, please subscribe to the channel so we can grow. And by the way, if you're wondering how this bumper looks so shiny and new on this 260,000 mile car, then check out this video where we replace it ourselves. And stay tuned to see more from me, Earl with an E.